my thermostat isn't working properly. When I'm driving along at low load, so it might be at motorway speeds, but not overly fast, the temperature needle should of course be completely level. This is an early phase 2 car. I know later ones had a digital gauge. It shouldn't really move much at all. Warm to cold conditions, it should be about the same, but mine started dropping slightly by at least 1 notch, maybe more than this in some cases, nearly 2 notches. When it's cold and I'm not loading the engine very much, and then when I load it, it rises again. Usually this is a sign of a slightly stuck open thermostat, so I'm going to be changing this today. First of all, I've just removed the battery and battery tray and the ECU. It's all connected to sort of one tray unit here. This just gives me better access to show you down here, which is where the thermostat lives. You of course don't need to remove any of this to access it. It should be straightforward enough. You might need to move 1 or 2 of the wiring clips in this area, and potentially the fuel filter from the battery tray, but you don't need to do this. I've just done this just to show you. The thermostat is just here at the end of the cylinder head. It lives within this entire black plastic housing here, secured by a few nuts, bolts. We'll get to them shortly. Of course, you could just release this here from the side of the cylinder head. Lots of coolant will end up pouring out. I don't know quite how much, but I'm sure it's a good enough amount, and spill all over the floor. If you're all right with that, that's fine. I'm going to choose to release at least some of the coolant from the bottom of the radiator. Normally I do this by releasing the lower radiator hose, which is just down there. You can see I've got a socket on it, a Jubilee clip. Let's go under the car. As it happens, I can't actually show you very easily at all from under the car due to the position. However, this is the passenger side of the car at the very bottom of the radiator. This is the coolant hose where it goes into out of the radiator. I'm just releasing the Jubilee clip using a socket because it's a lot easier than using a screwdriver down there, and then just wiggling the hose off into a clean bowl. Now, I will be retaining this coolant. It's the Renault Type D coolant. It's the correct stuff, I believe, to use for this engine. It's installed not too long ago by me. I do fairly regular coolant changes on it, so I do want to keep it. It's certainly not due for changing just yet, but if you're doing this job and you haven't changed your coolant, now's a really good time. I just released the hose. I've left it slightly attached, only slightly off. I don't want it all gushing everywhere. I've already made a bit of a mess. This isn't a particularly clean procedure. I've also just had to release the cap slightly from this to allow it to drain. I'm just going to let it drain slowly now, rather than create too much of a mess. If you actually take the hose off completely and take off that cap, it just gushes everywhere. I'd rather take my time and make a little less mess. Back up at the thermostat now. Most of the coolant now is hopefully drained out. We're about to find out how much of a spillage I get out of this. This is the new part, just to show you where the nuts and bolts go. So there's 3 bolts, as you can see, around the outside of it. We've got them, 1 there, 1 just there, and 1 I can't quite show you, it's just under that gap there. A total of 3 hoses need to be removed, 1, 2, and then 3 at this end. And there's the coolant temperature sensor, so a wiring connector, which lives just there. There's 1 hose, there's the top hose, and there's another hose just there. After that, it should just be a case of remove it from the end of the cylinder head. The new one, there's the thermostat inside. The new one comes with this rubber sealing gasket, which is great, and make sure the mating face of the cylinder head is clean. There are 2 tabs on that, 1 at each side. Just squeeze them both in and pull off. And a little bit of spillage. That's a bit annoying. I wonder what I can catch. And there's the old thermostat. Because it's a rubber gasket, not a paper one, there's not really any residue at all on the cylinder head, so just a quick wipe off is fine. Don't wail on these, just pinch them up. You're screwing plastic into aluminium and the gasket is rubber. The gasket's doing all the work. Don't wail on these bolts. Now to top up the coolant. Now I need to bleed the system, so one bleeder is here. It's a type of cover that covers the Schrader valve on your bike. And there is another bleeder just here on this coolant line. I'll show you that in a moment. We're just going to open this one now. This level will drop. Air will initially probably come out of this and then it will just flow clear liquid. That's when I'll be putting this one back on. Quite a lot of air to come out. There we go. And the level dropped. So back at the front of the engine now, the final bleeder is on this line here. It's sort of built into the line. Just need to unscrew that and the same trick as before, wait for the air to release, then tighten it back up again. It is hissing right now, I'm not sure if you can hear that. And there's liquid out of it now. Don't over tighten that one. You may be able to see that of course the level now is not where it was, it's a little bit lower. That's all the wastage I had beneath the car. There's now a nice mess for me to clear up. So top up the rest with either neat type D coolant or deionized water. One final thing to do, after you've driven the car a good few miles, a few days worth of driving maybe, just double check the level in the header tank there. And if it's gone down a little bit because there's still some air in the system, hopefully it should work its way up to that header tank and then just top up if you need to. Thanks very much for watching.